Welcome everyone back to the channel. My name is Carlos, and if you're new around here, consider subscribing, because on this channel what we're doing is we're taking a look at animation techniques, film techniques, hardware, software, all that stuff. We're putting it all together and learning how to tell our own stories. We're living our life, telling our stories. In this video, what we're gonna do is take a look at this trumpet player that I drew when I was hanging out with some friends. And it was a perfect vibe. We had the really good music playing, we had wine poured into our glasses and just hanging out playing games. And I decided to take out my iPad and start drawing. And this is what came out, because the music that was playing was like some old funk music and some jazz music and stuff. So let's take a look at how I created this drawing. But first, and welcome back. So like I said, this is a drawing that I made while I was hanging out with some friends, and the mood was perfect. The music that we were playing had a lot of trumpets, a lot of brass section in it. And if you remember, funk music had a lot of really cool bass lines with the guitars and a lot of brass. And so this guy was bouncing around in my head, and I decided to make him come to life. Well, come to life in an illustration. So this is the beginning. And you see, I don't always start with the circle and the crosshairs and stuff like that. There, I had it in there just a little bit, but this is kind of like a warm-up part of my sketch, and I'm trying to figure out lips and stuff, which I ended up using reference materials for. And this is where I decided to really go a little more cartoony, a little more expressive. And you see on the right hand side there where I really roughed out a position that I wanted to see, and then on the left I ended up trying to implement that pose into my character. And the reason I did that lift up toe thing is because I wanted to show that he was really trying to get that trumpet to do some things that are hard to do. Okay, he needed to have glasses, because when you're playing jazz, or if you're a cool musician, you need some really cool sunglasses. So I threw those in there too. And you see there where I'm trying to move the head around and trying to get the arms placed properly. All of that is the process of getting your art done. And I'm gonna hit pause real quick. This is a good time to talk about your strokes and the importance of the strokes, and how the strokes that you put down don't necessarily have to be your last stroke. You can always erase or move. You see a lot of your favorite illustrators where they'll even go in and use some of the deform tools that are in Procreate and even Photoshop. They're trying to manipulate these lines to create that illustration that ultimately you'll see. So with that, basically the point is, don't be comfortable until you know for sure that that's where that line goes. Make sure that your eyes are telling you that this is the right stroke for the right position or the right pose that you're trying to get to. I hope that makes sense. You'll see here where I use a bunch of different layers, and I'm always playing around trying to figure out what the proper pose is that I'm trying to create, and the different appendages, the different arms and legs, and where they go for this specific pose. If you're just standing there, it's kind of simple. You just draw things, right? But if you're trying to add action to something, you need to make sure that that the body parts fall where they need to be. And that's where reference material comes in handy. And I wanted to show you, now that we're talking about reference material, I wanted to show you something that's some of the capabilities within Procreate that I find incredibly valuable, and not a lot of people know that it's there. What I'm gonna do is come up to the wrench on the top left. I'm gonna tap that, and I'm gonna come over to the canvas tab, and then over here drop down to where it says reference. If I turn that on, now I get this reference panel that's draggable. And at the bottom of this panel, I have 3 selections. Right now, canvas is selected, and basically all that is saying is that the canvas, whatever I have on the canvas, is being shown. So I can come in here and really zoom in if I was gonna be adding some details. And I can add details and still have a really good understanding of what's happening on the canvas. So I don't have to continue to zoom in and zoom out, add some detail, zoom out to take a look. I can do all of my detail work here and then take a look on the panel. I can zoom in on the reference panel as well. But for now, yeah, I just wanted to show you that panel and how to use it with the canvas. Now let's go back to the panel and tap Image. Whatever I have in my photo library I'm able to import that. Or if I wanted to, I can use my iPad to take a picture, make sure that it's saved to the camera roll, and then I'm able to tap Import Image and then import that and use that as reference. What I ended up doing for this drawing is I found a reference of a guy playing a trumpet, but he was just kind of standing there. But I could see where his hands were and where the fingers were, so I was able to use that and improve at least this part of the drawing, the hands. And then if we do face, I'm gonna click on face, and you'll see whatever is on the canvas will then be put on my face, which is kind of cool, kind of creepy. And then if I go, let's move this reference panel. If you notice, here are some really bright aqua colored or light blue colored crosses. The 2 that are on top, that are on the left and the right, those are the eyes. This plus sign here, or this cross, is the nose, and this is the mouth. So you'll notice where this cross hits his knee on my face, you can see that that's part of my lips. It's pretty funny. We can play with that another day. Right now, let's go back to canvas. Like I said before, you can move this reference panel around just fine. And if you notice that little cross right there, I can tap that and make it go away. And as a refresher, wrench, canvas, reference. Super useful, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, and we're back here. Okay, and this is where again, I wasn't real comfortable with even the perspective of the glasses or how the trumpet was hitting this guy's face. So I kept working on it. And I would get some of the roughs to a really good spot. And then I would bring the opacity of that layer down and then draw on top of that again. And eventually I got to something that I felt really good about. And here again, just trying to figure out where the cheeks go, how the cheeks and the sunglasses interact with each other. To show proper dimension, I figured out that the glasses needed to be on top of the cheek instead of the cheek on top of the glasses. I hope that makes sense. But that's what I'm working through right there, trying to figure out the relationship between, and this is a really good example of getting one layer to a certain level and then continuing to play with his face until I got something that I felt really comfortable with. And then working on the nose, adding more parts of his head. And again, my focus with this was taking my time to figure out the proper placement of the different body parts and how the nose interacts with the trumpet and the cheeks while the cheeks are blown way up. And then getting the feet down there. Okay. And I wanted to give him a really cool shirt because he might be classy. I don't know. Get the hands in there. And then eventually what happens is adding the little shadows down there was just to add a little bit more perspective. And here I'm trying to figure out how the trumpet interacts with his face. And if he had facial hair, what would that facial hair do with that trumpet being pressed up against his mouth? And here trying to get a really good really good understanding of what the hands are doing and how the hands inform the elbows, which then inform the shoulders, because all of this is happening because he's really getting into whatever note he's playing right now. He really wants to reach it. He's really going for it. So then I started dropping bass colors, and then I added, this is a really good time to pause. Once I got the bass colors down, I then create a new layer and I add all of the shadows to that layer. And then I add another layer and I put all of the highlights on that layer. And I know a lot of people that will break this down into layers upon layers, which is a really good idea because especially on client work, what happens is if this was a client job and my client, instead of a purple shirt, maybe the client wanted him to wear an orange shirt and possibly even like some Bermuda shorts or something. What you don't want to do is have to go in there and be really careful and adjusting the drawing after getting some feedback. If you separate everything in their different layers, it'll make it a lot easier to manipulate or to make changes. This is for me, this is me just trying to play around with a very expressive pose. So I just kept everything on, the base colors are all on one layer, but I do always separate shadows from highlights just because sometimes I might want to move the light source, which is a very important point to keep in mind. When you're starting to do colors and shadows and highlights, you need to establish where your light source is coming from. So then that way, for example, here, I might as well hit play and see where we are as far as the process goes. Okay, this is where I decided to add some inked lines. A lot of this, and we'll get back to the shadows and highlights when we get to that point, but here, I decided that I really did like this guy. At first, I really liked the roughs, but I'm trying to move into being more comfortable with inked lines and stuff. So I did that, and here we are. We're back to the shadows and highlights. Again, I'm on a completely different layer for the highlights, and by adding those highlights on his glasses, and now I'm actually adding some reflective lights onto his glasses, that's telling us that the light source in this drawing is coming from the top right of the canvas, or the top of his head. It's coming down and creating those glimmers of light and then shadows. And I wanted to give his shirt a little bit more of a disco-y vibe, a little kind of I don't know what it is. Like, people that are really super cool, they always have shiny shirts. It's just one of those things. And yeah, this guy is definitely incredibly cool playing that trumpet. And if you look at the opening of the trumpet, I added not just spit marks, but also little tunes just in case you were confused that this guy is really, really making music. And with that, I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a lot of fun to make this drawing and to really push the shapes. And those are some of the things that we're going to be going through this year, is not just drawing techniques, but how to take those drawing techniques to the next level, and then taking those techniques and bringing them into the world of animation and eventually filmmaking. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you know anyone that's trying to get into animation, filmmaking, just drawing, illustration, graphic design, all that stuff, that's all the stuff that we're making on this channel. I'm trying to show you guys hardware, software, and even filmmaking techniques, animation techniques that we can all use to then tell our own stories. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. And if you notice that little bell, if you click on that, every time I come out with content, which is basically every week, you'll be alerted, and we'll learn how to do all this stuff, and we'll share animation techniques, and everyone will learn together. All right, guys, that's it for me. I hope this video finds you safe, and I hope this video finds you healthy, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.
Coconut chest.